Hello, friends. Perhaps some of you know that besides Odessa in the USA, there's a Russian Odessa on the shores of the warm Black Sea. Perhaps some even know that this city was built from light-colored local shell rock, a limestone quarried in the catacombs. And only a few experts have heard of the incredible length of the catacombs. And in vain. These are enormous, tangled, and completely unexplored tunnels, some of which actually served as mines for building material, but only a small part. After all, the length of these underground communications is almost 2,500 kilometers. Think about it. Not 100, not 200, but 2,500. 2 or 3 months of hiking, 50 hours behind the wheel. Compare. The famous Parisian catacombs, known to tourists, are about 300 kilometers long. The Roman catacombs, over 2,000 years old, are less than 200. And here, 10 times more? 10? Really? Historians are convinced that it was all man-made. Catherine the Great, they say, signed the decree founding Odessa in 1794, the Russian Empress. And of course, thrifty workers and dock workers began building houses from soft, easy-to-work material, quarrying it right under their streets. And over hundreds of years, they dug and excavated so much that now, underground, there's a web of tunnels, 3 times longer than all known tunnels in Europe combined. But historians love to spin romantic tales. But what's the reality? Look how the theory about quarries and mines defies reality. Argument number 1. There's a saying, don't dig a hole for someone else, you'll fall into it yourself. And here, stupid workers dug wells and shafts right beneath the city and then promptly forgot about them, only to have their grandchildren fall into these dungeons? This is no joke. In Odessa, there are numerous construction projects that failed because the pile sank into the void. In Odessa, many entrances to catacombs were discovered by accident. They were digging a cellar for storing vegetables and fell in. How could that be? Why didn't the builders leave plans? Why weren't all the entrances to the mines somehow sealed, marked, or simple barriers erected to keep out the ubiquitous children? Agree, there's no logic to it. Argument 2. If these are stone mines, then who mined them? Simple math tells us that the volume of earth extracted is approximately 6, 12, or even 18 million tons of rock. Calculating this is difficult, as the tunnel cross-sections vary. But the narrowest passages are easily recognizable. They were left by real miners. These tunnels are designed for a narrow minecart, and the height here is barely above average. And there are other passages too, halls 7 meters high. In short, according to the most conservative estimates, we have 10 million tons of rock, and no more than 2 million tons were used for the entire city. Where is the rest? Did the Dwarves take it? For their palaces? Let's just do a quick calculation. 1820, the year stone mining began. The quarries were run by ordinary people with no experience. The tools were primitive. A pick, a shovel, a kerosene lamp, or a candle. So what was the productivity of such work? They say no more than 2 or 3 meters per shift for a team of 5 or 6 people. In a year, such a team would dig 500 to 700 meters. Let's say 1 kilometer. How many teams worked in such quarries? 10 to 17 meters underground and deeper? 10, 20? So in a year, they could dig like moles, 20 kilometers of narrow passages. Then, for the entire 2,500 kilometers, it would take 125 years of hard labor. No less. And again, the skeptic's stupid question arises. If a city needs 2 million tons of stone, why mine 10? Did they trade in the stone, or were the people redundant? Incidentally, at least 50 workers died in these primitive mines each year. It's a known fact that people still die, as it's easy to get lost in these labyrinths. And finding your way out when panic sets in is difficult. The second question, where are the waste rock heaps? Regular mines are visible from afar, with slag heaps towering everywhere. But where are Odessa's slag heaps? They're not there. For some reason. A third question for experts and historians. If these are mines and quarries, then why are they connected into a gigantic multi-level system? In some places, they are stacked 3 levels high. Why all this complexity? 3 tiers. What's the point? For a hard worker, the simpler, the better. Who would go deep if the stone above was the same? A fourth question. Why were 500-meter-long spans found in some places, laid straight, without the slightest turn or deviation from the line? Incidentally, this is very difficult to accomplish without specialized equipment and instruments. How can one maintain a straight line underground without a laser level or a theodolite? But this won't surprise historians. They have a beloved prayer, and in the old days, there were plenty of unique craftsmen. Otherwise, where did the 7 wonders of the world come from? And these tunnels are also connected to vertical shafts, strictly vertical, which is also unusual for a mine. It's easier to lift a load at an angle. Even mining horses wouldn't climb the steps. Horses aren't monkeys. And here, there are shafts up to 2 meters in diameter and 70 meters high. 3 levels of tunnels lead to these shafts. Everything is precise. Everything is very well thought out. And who then, according to historians, coordinated all this mining? By tying them to the collector shafts? What if the mines operated at different times? Theoretically, 100 years from the start of production. Who provided the miners with the plans, precise plans, of all the floors? Fifth question. Where are the mine excavation maps? Where are the documents? All we know is that before the war, in 1940, the first serious mapping of the underground was conducted, and it covered no more than 1/3 of the tunnels, 1/3 of the catacombs, and that was under Stalin's discipline. They couldn't do more. The traces of stonework in the tunnels are also worth mentioning. It would seem like crude marks from a chisel and pick. Here are traces of felling, nicks, but that's only at first glance. If you examine the walls more closely, you'll soon notice distinct grooves, marks of machine processing, from a milling cutter, which our miners didn't have. They simply didn't have one. Not to mention the areas where the walls have melted, the traces of thermal damage. And this, too, is ignored by official history. Perhaps there's no point in continuing. Talking about buildings in Odessa that have basements with windows bricked up with new bricks because the windows are below the new sidewalks. These are traces of a flood. A flood. And this leads us to a conclusion. The conclusion is obvious. This doesn't fit with the theory of haphazard stone mining by impoverished settlers in the early 19th century. No, these aren't mines belonging to the inhabitants of the Black Sea coast. It's far more reasonable to assume they're the work of dwarves. Just kidding. But in essence, logic dictates that these are old utility lines, sewer networks, or transport arteries of the old world, which were accidentally discovered, and only later did people begin to use the tunnels for their own needs, mining stone. And before us, like all sewers, these required multiple levels, multiple stories. Perhaps they were also used for cargo delivery, perhaps for some other reason. And then the length and size of the tunnels themselves would be quite consistent with a metropolis. For example, London's sewerage system is almost 2,000 kilometers long. Paris's is slightly longer. Therefore, logic tells us that we are looking at the sewers of an ancient city, traces of which no longer remain on the surface. It wasn't barbarians who ravaged a coastal metropolis. No, a cataclysm. Old buildings and their rubble were rebuilt and used for construction materials. But only the underground structures remained, the infrastructure of the former world. Although they are buried in some places by silt and mud flows because the flood swept across the entire surface, sparing no one. Therefore, it is difficult to follow all the threads of this lost web. How how much is still hidden there, under the layers of centuries. The sad thing is that no one is investigating. Enthusiasts descend into the dungeons. After all, underground fighters hid here during the German occupation, and there are still weapons depots from World War II here somewhere. But what if individuals? Getting lost, that's easy. It happens. The catacombs remain a terrifying place, a deadly one. And no one is truly trying to find answers, to explore all these tunnels, because historians have no questions, and the authorities aren't interested in some mythical prehistoric flood. The authorities have completely different priorities, right? And we can only hope for a miracle. Other scientists and other rulers will appear, and they will find the means. And only then, perhaps, the world will learn the truth about those very magical gnomes who left us these tunnels as a legacy. All the best, friends.